Class is in session, hitting the books. College basketball show Tuesday, February 18th. Ian Cameron, Connor Mack will be here in a moment, running a little bit late, but he will be here in just a bit. Tuesday college basketball slate, a very good card. I think there's a lot of good bets out there. It's been a red-hot run on the show, especially for best bets. 2-0 sweep on Friday. We gave you a best bet for Friday, a best bet for Saturday in college basketball on our last show last Friday. We gave you UCLA as they went to Indiana and beat the Hoosiers last Friday night as a best bet winner. And we gave you an easy over the total winner, Purdue and Wisconsin on Saturday. That game flew over the total with plenty of room to spare. So a nice 2-0 sweep with best bets Friday. We'll see if we can keep it rolling here for this Tuesday. Let's get into it. We'll begin in the Big East. We've got Villanova taking on UConn. UConn 8.5-point home favorites, 136.5 the total in this game. What is wrong with UConn? That was clearly not a loss people expected over the weekend against Seton Hall, and really it's been a tale of their season. It's just not been that same Huskies team that we saw the last 2 years winning the national championship and losing as a 13.5-point road favorite at Seton Hall, 69-68. Not a very good look for the UConn Huskies. Dan Hurley ripping into his team after that loss. The question is, what does that do for UConn tonight? Do they show up? Do they play to a level that they haven't often gotten to this particular season? That's the big question. I personally can't lay 8.5 with UConn right now. I just don't feel they're playing really well enough at this point in time, either side of the ball. Villanova is an interesting team. You're not always sure what you're going to get from them. They've won 3 of their last 4. They do have some nice wins at home during this time. Xavier, St. John's, 2 very quality Big East wins, but both of those came at home. On the road, it's been a bit of a different story, especially when they've played the better teams. They lose by 12 at St. John's. They lose by 6 at Xavier. They didn't cover in those 2 games. They lose by 13 at Marquette. They didn't cover in that game. So when they've had to step up in the Big East on the road, it's been a little bit more difficult for them. This is a clear pass for me. This is definitely not a game I felt strong about either way. I think I would take the points if I had to, but as you guys know, I'm not the biggest Villanova fan. I'm not the biggest Kyle Neptune fan, and they've shown enough issues on the road that I'm concerned that after Hurley kind of laced into his team, maybe UConn wakes up and wins by double digits here. So it's a pass for me in this game with Villanova and UConn, but we had to talk about it because it's one of the bigger games on the slate here tonight. So is this one in the Big Ten. We've got Purdue and Michigan State. Michigan State 3.5-point home favorites, 148.5 the total in this game. I really like how this game sets up for Purdue. Purdue is coming off the home loss to Wisconsin. We had the over in that game on Saturday. Easy winner for best bet. Just a horrible defensive game from Purdue. They scored enough points, but obviously defensively they had a tough time. Wisconsin was really good offensively, making a lot of shots. And Purdue, a very rare home loss at Mackey Arena to Wisconsin, who go in there and knock off the Boilers. So you've got Purdue off that disappointing home loss, now going on the road, taking on a Michigan State team that is battling for top spot in the Big Ten, and a Michigan State team coming off a very impressive road victory at Illinois on Saturday night, winning outright. They were getting 6 points in that game, and they win outright against Illinois. It was also a very emotional night for Michigan State. That win gave Tom Izzo the record for most Big Ten wins in the conference's history. So it was a big record-setting milestone night. You know, he's crying in the post-game interview, Izzo getting all emotional. I just get that feeling Michigan State's not going to have their A game tonight, and they're catching a Purdue team that's probably going to be focused, dialed in, looking to make amends for a poor game at home against Wisconsin. So I like Purdue here, plus 3.5. A little bit of a nice buy low spot for Purdue. And I'm not a big fan of this team, especially the defensive end. It's not been good for Purdue, which will lead to what I like as far as the total. I like this over as well. I don't know what more I can say. We've been riding these Purdue overs on this show for weeks now. Purdue just continues to be an over machine. Other than the close game against Michigan, I mean, most of the recent Purdue games continue to fly over the total. So I do like this over, 148.5. We've been riding the Purdue overs, but I like Purdue from a side perspective, plus 3.5. I think they've got a better game in them. I think there's a tough spot for Michigan State. All the emotions, getting the record for Izzo, Saturday night at Illinois. Now you're back home. Purdue, I think comes to play tonight. And I still worry about how Michigan State's going to deal with some of the size Purdue has. And the question is going to be, can they get, the perimeter guys making their shots? That's always the question for Purdue. And can Purdue step up defensively? Because let's be honest, Matt Painter's team has not been a shutdown team at the defensive end of the court here in recent games. So can the defense step up after giving up 94 to Wisconsin? And can they get enough offense from Fletcher Lawyer, Braden Smith? Can Trey Kaufman-Wren be a difference maker for Purdue? If those things happen, I think Purdue plus the points ends up being the way to go here in this game. Good spot, certainly, to have this one, I think, come in and take Purdue here. All right, Oklahoma and Florida. We've got Florida 14-point home favorites, 156 the total in this game. Well, for Oklahoma, it's getting a little bit dicey now as far as the tournament. I mean, some of these losses are putting them in a position where, some of those early season wins are starting to erode, and a lot of the mediocrity we've seen out of Oklahoma lately is putting them in a spot where I don't even think the tournament is a sure thing for them anymore. They've lost home to LSU, a blowout loss on the road to Missouri, home loss by double digits to Tennessee, 28-point road loss to Auburn, 0-4 straight up, 0-4 against the spread. Oklahoma in their last 4 games, not in any sort of good form. They need to show up in a game like this. Will they? And even if they do, is it enough? Florida's rolling, 7-1 straight up, 4-0 against the spread in their last 4 games. All of those victories by 9 points or more. We'll see if that carries over here into this game. But, it's very difficult to trust Oklahoma. I think if Oklahoma shows up and plays their absolute best, their A game, maybe they can stay inside this number. But I don't know if that's going to end up being possible. The one thing that's been a major issue for Oklahoma is what's happened to their defense. 82, 82, and 98 they've given up in their last 3 of their last 4 losses. And you think of all the firepower that Florida has and how they can just get red hot from the field and just put up points in bunches with Thomas Haw, with Walter Clayton, with Will Richard and Denzel Aberdeen. And you go on down the list, there's just too much firepower right now. So I think I don't want to lay 14 with Florida in this spot. They do play, I think they have a big game coming up, if I'm not mistaken. But I don't know if I trust the matchup or this Oklahoma team enough to take them either. No, they got at LSU next up, so it's not a big look ahead for Florida. So I'm probably going to stay off this one when it's all said and done. Oklahoma, Florida. I lean to the Sooners. I just don't trust them enough. They do need to show up. They do need to get a signature result. And certainly, boy, it would boost their hopes for sure for the tournament if they were to somehow go into Gainesville and win this game on the road at Florida. I just don't know if they've got what it takes to do that. Texas A&M and Mississippi State. We've got Mississippi State 2.5-point home favorites, 144 the total in this game. A&M is the side I would look to here. Small bet. Nothing. It's definitely not one of my top plays on the card here tonight, but I like the way Buzz's team is playing. They've won 5 straight, covered 3 in a row. They've shown the ability to go on the road and get it done at Ole Miss, at Missouri, getting road wins in those 2 venues already. We'll see if that can continue. Mississippi State's just too inconsistent. I don't want to lay points when I don't know if they're the better team. I don't think they are necessarily. They're 0-5 against the spread in their last 5 home games here in Starkville. So this has not been a team that's been covering numbers here on their home floor. And I just feel A&M's the better squad. I'm happy to take 2.5 points with them here in this game. And again, Mississippi State's not been good here at home. 2.5-point home favorites to Florida, lose outright. 6.5-point favorites to Missouri, lose outright. 1.5-point favorites to Alabama, all at home, lose outright. 6-point favorites at home to Ole Miss, they win it by 3 in overtime. 5-point home favorites against Kentucky at home, lose outright. It's just time after time after time, one disappointment after another when Mississippi State's been laying points at home. So I like the Aggies here a little bit, plus 2.5 in this game. This total's tough. A&M's an under machine right now. They're playing pretty good defense. They're not really playing with pace. And Connor and I talked about this on Friday. We both like the over in the Egg Bowl, Ole Miss and Mississippi State, and it did go over the total. Mississippi State's defense has really fallen off. It's just not playing at the level that I know Chris Jans wants it. Chris Jans is known for having good defensive teams. This goes back to when he coached New Mexico State. And they're just not playing very good defense right now. So it's a tough conflict for me with the total. A&M's been an under team. Mississippi State's been an over team. And we're not quite sure right now which way this is going to go because you got one team trending under, one team trending over. I lean over simply because Mississippi State's at home, and maybe because of that, it'll be more of an up and down game. Texas Tech and TCU. Connor Mack is going to join us in just a sec. We got Texas Tech 7-point road favorites, 141.5 the total here in this game. Texas Tech certainly the better team, but this is that time of year sometimes where with TCU, since Jamie Dixon's been there, I know they've had their ups and downs, but he's usually been a good underdog coach. Texas Tech, even though there's no doubt they're the better of these two teams, they're playing really well. 9-1. Their only loss was at Arizona. No shame in that. They have a huge win at Houston on the resume too. Not easy to step in front of Texas Tech. They've actually beaten TCU each of the last two meetings. Earlier this year, it was a 71-57 win for Texas Tech over TCU at home. TCU revenge spot, but TCU's covered 3 of the last 5. They've won 4 of the last 5. The only loss was at Iowa State by 30, 82-52. It was an ugly one, but they beat West Virginia, Colorado, Oklahoma State, Arizona State on the road. The problem is none of those teams are as good as Texas Tech, not even close. So this is one of those games where, Texas Tech's is the better team. I'm not rushing to step in front of them, but this is the time of year where Jamie Dixon, especially in the underdog role, starts to get his teams to overperform. So I kind of lean a little bit here to TCU in this game, but nothing I'm overly strong on when it comes to this one. Butler and Xavier. Xavier, 7-point home favorites, 152 the total in this game. Butler's been a weird team, but right now, when you look at this Butler team, the arrow is pointing up a little bit. They are 6-2 against the spread their last 8 games. They've won 3 in a row, albeit Seton Hall, Providence, Georgetown. None of those teams I would say are phenomenal, Big East teams by any stretch of the imagination. Maybe Georgetown is pretty good, but the other two not so much. Xavier, obviously they had a loss at Villanova, a loss at Creighton. But they beat UConn at home. They beat Georgetown at home 74-69. They destroyed DePaul 85-68. The Cintas Center has always been a good home court for the Musketeers. 12-2 they are at home this year. I certainly side with the home favorite a little bit here in this game. Xavier laying 6.5, 7. I don't want Butler here in this spot. I definitely think Xavier's the better of these two teams. I think it's right around the right number, but I do lean to Xavier here. I would lay it before I take the points. I like the over, though, believe it or not. I know it's a high total, but look at these two teams. Butler, 9-1 to the over in their last 10 games. They've suddenly become an over machine because they're starting to hit some shots. Their defense hasn't been great. Xavier, they've gone over the total 7 straight games entering tonight. So you have two teams heavily trending over the total. So I'm not about to reinvent the wheel here. One team is 7-0 to the over coming into tonight. The other is 9-1. I'm going to take over 151.5 here when it comes to Butler and Xavier. I think we'll see points, and that is definitely what we have seen with both of these teams lately. C-Mac is in the house now with us. C-Mac, we'll start here. Butler, Xavier thing here.
Yeah, we could just touch on. I could rip through the rest. No one needs to hear my sorry take. I agree with you here. A little bit on the over. All those games. Butler, they didn't have really any of these in the 150s, but you're right. The scoring's been better. So, and two, they haven't been playing much defense at all, this Butler team. That's why they continue to lose, even though as dogs, they've covered numbers. On the side, I kind of lean Xavier. I don't want to lay 7 here. A team playing well, won those last 2, beat up DePaul and won 3 of 4. So, yeah. Just leans for me here.
All right, quick.
Oh, and the rest of the games?
Oh, we'll go quick hitter one by one. Quick hitter for you, because since you just joined us. Okay. Villanova, UConn. Anything there?
I have nothing in that game. I would lead. I looked at the under. I don't want it at 126. This seems like a great spot for UConn. I don't trust them. They need to get back to their defense, or it's just not going to happen.
Yeah, not good when Seton Hall's making shots. They haven't been able to hit a jump shot half the 3/4 of the season, and there they are making big shots and helping them beat UConn on Saturday. Purdue, Michigan State. I made the case. Well, I'm on another Purdue over. Shocker. They just keep going over the total, this team. But I'm on Purdue here. I think good spot for them. What do you think?
I know, and this total is a little bit come down? Like, when is the defensive type game going to happen? Because it kind of just hasn't,
Nope.
with Purdue, like you're talking about. So does it? I mean, Michigan State a little bit more of an under team. Can they hold them down? Maybe that happens tonight. That's why I just kept this lean. I had to stay off this too. I kind of like Michigan State. Both of these, I was making a good case for it. Both these teams, when you back them, have made pretty good money. I just think a little bit with Purdue, I want to fade them on the road, even though they've been solid 5-3 this year. So I'm up.
All right, Oklahoma, Florida.
I think this total's too high. Look, Oklahoma, if they have to do anything here, is try to play some fucking defense on the road. They have not done it. This total's super high. Florida, a little bit different team. We've talked about it all year. They've been better defensively. They're not as kind of quick up and down, but they should have success, scoring on this Oklahoma team. This is a boatload of points. I can't trust Oklahoma on the road. It seems like they finally are going to have a good game. They've had just bad stinkers those last two, just awful. And before that, they kind of hung around. They got blown out. I think it was at Alabama, but they beat Arkansas. They lost by 7 to A&M. But this team's just continued just to roll down the hill. Shit, stank, rolling downhill. But it seems like they could maybe cover tonight with Oklahoma. It's just tough for me to take. But I thought 156 was really, really too high. The defense is bad, but on the other side too, can they hit some shots? This Oklahoma team that was so well. Now the stats are a little bit skewed. You got to just look at the last month and a half compared to the full year. And can they get to the free throw line? They're a decent team there too, but they haven't even got there. It seems like lately to help them out. So yeah, I thought 157 was too high under.
All right, under for CMAC with Oklahoma and Florida. All right, Texas A&M, Mississippi State. I made the case for A&M simply because this Mississippi State team 0-5 against the spread, one failure after another as home favorites. This role has been a disaster for them. Are things going to change tonight?
I don't think so. A&M's got the better defense, and I'd rather have those 3 points. You get the 3, at least the 2.5 in this game. Can at home, Mississippi State do what they've kind of done all year. And score well, which they have. But yeah, they've been in different games like this. They've been just laying too big of numbers normally. Like when they play LSU and these teams have been laying, 8 to 12 kind of area. But yeah, catching points here, and the spot we talked about it too, and I've just kind of kicked myself. Was just all over it. How the matchup was great. Even, Egg Bowl, how well they played Ole Miss, even the last 5 or 6 years. And the matchup was good with them, especially both those teams not great defensively, and they took advantage of it against Ole Miss. And so after that big win here, it seems a little bit flat. I kind of even like A&M first half in this game as well. I think they could keep it close.
All right, another good one in the Big Ten, Illinois, Wisconsin. Wisconsin 4-point home favorites, 161 the total. Had the easy best bet winner was on Saturday on the show. With Purdue and Wisconsin flying over the total. And Wisconsin, man, to put 96 points on the board at Purdue, man, how impressive that was by the Badgers. Now can they sustain it? They're back home. Huge road win at Purdue because not many teams win there. Wisconsin was 8. And they're, like I said, we've said this over and over again with Blackwell and Tanji and all these. Like, they're such a better offensive team than they've been in the past, Wisconsin. But I don't know if they're going to be 96 points good here tonight. It's hard to duplicate that. Illinois, they're coming off just a really poor game at home against Michigan State. Izzo was able to get his Big Ten record for wins at Illinois with a big road win. Tough home loss for Illinois. So you've got Wisconsin off a big road win, laying points at home, and you've got Illinois off a bad home loss, or not bad because Michigan State's a decent, good team, but they didn't play well, Illinois, in that game. And now they're going on the road catching points. I think you get where I'm going here, where the buy low, sell high spot kind of is here. And it feels like Illinois might be the way to go here, +4. Coming off that loss. They have owned Wisconsin, by the way, to the tune of 9 straight victories over Wisconsin. I got to take Illinois here, plus these points. And I like the over again, but it is a little bit high. I don't love this one. Total's in a good spot, I think, at 161. But I'm sure as hell not betting these teams under. CMAC, what do you think?
Yeah, me too. I mean, it's just up here now. They could still maybe get over though until this number. Yeah, this has just been a bad matchup for Wisconsin. And yeah, they're off the huge game, back-to-back road wins, and they've won 4 straight. And they just played really good from jump against Purdue. Illinois, Johnson's out for this game, right? For sure, his wrist.
Looks
Yeah,
like it.
he's
Yes.
out.
Yep.
Yeah, he's out. But still, I just think Illinois off the beat down of Michigan State, I think they play better, and it just smells fishy. And this is what, and it's 3.5 now everywhere.
Yeah,
I just think we're gonna get a tight game. You know,
Yep.
it's Illinois or nothing, and they're hard to trust a little bit. Wisconsin's been the more of the team. If you've been backing them, you could look here, but it's kind of a slippery spot here for Wisconsin. Been playing the defense still. For Wisconsin, I think isn't great, but the shooting's been good. They've been good from inside. They're a decent rebounding team, and they're great from the free throw line. They're like 84%, something like that. So, yeah, tough one, but Illinois or nothing.
There you go. Illinois or pass for Connor Mack here. All right, Seton Hall, Marquette. Marquette 18.5-point home favorites, 135 the total. Clear potential flat spot, and maybe they run into a wall here, Seton Hall, because that was just a huge road win, home win, I should say, for them against UConn. But they're not even close still to the tournament. They'd have to go on some kind of crazy run to get there. But this team was looking for some kind of confidence builder. It doesn't get much bigger as far as a confidence builder than beating the 2-time defending national champions, even though it's not quite the same UConn team this year. That's still a huge win for Shaheen Holloway and his Seton Hall team. Can they build on that now as they go on the road at Marquette? I'll say this right now about Marquette. I can't lay this many points. It might be a tricky spot for Seton Hall, but my goodness, Marquette hasn't been great, laying bigger numbers of late. You look at their last 4 games, they've lost 3 of the 4. The DePaul game, 16-point favorites. They only won by 10. That's kind of what this feels like to me. Even with Seton Hall maybe in a letdown spot after the huge win against UConn, maybe they go on the road and they get steamrolled, but Marquette's not been steamrolling teams lately. And Seton Hall, double-digit underdog is supposed to be the profile that we like. This coach, Holloway, he was great in this role as a double-digit dog back when he was at St. Peter's and took that team to the tournament years ago. So I get the spot could be a little concerning here for Seton Hall. I would still take the Pirates here. Take them plus 18.5 before laying it. C-Mac, what do you think?
Yeah, I don't want nothing to do with this game at all. This has just been the shits for matchup-wise versus Marquette. But I mean, how do you this team? I mean, they haven't covered in 5 straight. If Seton Hall shoots the ball like all right here, I think they could cover the number. But if they just kind of get into one of these games on the road where they can't find a bucket for 6-7 minutes,
it's happened a lot.
It's happened a lot, and especially just off at the huge game that they just beat UConn as 13, 14-point dogs. So, and they've had some bad beatdowns on the road, even lately. 25 at Creighton. DePaul crushed them. Will they lose by 14 or 16 to Georgetown? So, yeah, I want nothing to do with it.
Yeah, I don't blame you. I think it's difficult here in this one. All right, next up, we got Houston, Arizona State. Houston Cougars, 11.5-point road favorites, 134.5 the total here in this one. Houston, they keep on getting the job done for the most part. We saw what they did, obviously, against Arizona. That was a very impressive road win. They took my money in that game because I did like Arizona, but Houston with a nice 62-58 win on the road. They smothered the Wildcats in the second half of that game. Huge road win. Can they keep it rolling here? They're laying a big number. They do go back home and they face Iowa State. It is worth noting after this game, the Cyclones. So that's a pretty big one coming up on deck for the Houston Cougars facing Iowa State. Meanwhile, Arizona State, disappointing season, obviously, just 12-13. They're coming off a 4-point loss as 5-point favorites against TCU. I took TCU. I'm like, how can we lay points with Arizona State? But I will say this, Arizona State went to Texas Tech, only lost by 5 as a big dog. The underdog role has been better for them. They were competitive in a loss as a dog against Arizona on the home floor, and Houston does have that big game on deck. So buyer beware if you're going to lay it with Houston. I mean, I don't know if I think enough of Bobby Hurley and Arizona State to take the Sun Devils, but I do lean to the Pitchforkers tonight in this spot. I think it's a little bit of a tough spot for Houston. The big win against Arizona, Iowa State coming up. The question is Arizona State going to score consistently against this Houston defense?
Yeah.
And that's the big concern you've got. C-Mac, what do you think?
Well, could guys like Mason and Freeman, those type, be consistent? They really haven't. And
no, one
they
game
just
they're
had to-
okay, and one game they can't make a shot to save their lives. Yep.
Exactly. There's a whole lot of good game and then a 3-point game, and an 18-point game, a 5-point game. So, hey, they got to be up for this. I can't back them here. Just no way. Houston's defense is just too good. I even could look under. Arizona State's been going over a little bit. They just slipped over the last game, gone over 3 straight. They really haven't anything, but they haven't seen a defense like this since I guess maybe this one would be at home when they got beat down by Iowa State 76-61. This could be very similar. They cover. Let's just cover this. That actually get this. It's right by the number too. Maybe it goes over. So yeah, I'm off here. Maybe this is a spot for everyone to think Houston wins big first half. You mentioned Arizona. Did you have Arizona last night?
I did. I did take Arizona last night against
I wanted to say
I
that
love that
since
spot. They lost 2 in a row. They lost at Kansas State. They lost at home to Houston. I said, Baylor's just too flaky to me, too up and down for me. If Arizona's they're going to beat them, and they did. Yeah, that was a good one. Yeah, we both were on the Wildcats last night in that one. Yeah, good point. Jaden Quaintance, he's been out for a little bit, ankle injury.
He's out, I think, too.
Yeah, he is out, but they haven't played. They've actually been somewhat little bit better without him, believe it or not. Haven't been terrible without him. In fact, at times, some elements of this team's game has been better without him, quite honestly.
That's true.
Yeah.
I mean, since he's been out, yeah.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. You got Jawan Roberts, LJ Cryer, Manuel Sharp. Like, if those guys are hitting their shots to go with that defense, it's very tough to beat Houston. There's no question. And again, is Arizona State going to make shots? Because I've seen worse defenses than Houston, believe it or not, give them problems. But it's not a good Houston spot. It's definitely, for me, not a lay 11.5 with spot for the Houston Cougars here. All right, next up, we've got, that's not the Auburn and Alabama. That is incorrect. Next up, we've got Virginia Tech and Boston College. Virginia Tech 1.5-point road favorites, 142 the total in this game. And this kind of feels like one of those games that's going to come down to the wire. Hard to make a strong case for either team right now. Boston College been bad overall. Virginia Tech has had some moments, but a lot of inconsistency there as well. I lean a little to the home court here, but nothing overly strong when it comes to this one. Connor Mack, what do you think here? Tech, BC.
It wasn't a ton for me, too. I think it's BC or nothing. I know they've lost, but they've covered back-to-back. It's kind of kicking myself that it was short, but they always played Notre Dame great, tough. Yeah. Like that, and it was 4.5. They lose by 3. Just rivalry has been like that for forever. One thing, Boston College, when I was looking at their defense is very good. Can these teams make enough shots? Because they've gone over. This team's been a pretty good over team. Savannah, 15-10 on the year. So I kind of looked at that. I lean that way. And the series history has been a lot of overs as well. So over here.
All right, over for CMAC here with Tech and BC. All right, next up as we continue along here, Kansas and BYU. What continues to be the problem with the Kansas Jayhawks? But here they are traveling to Provo, the Marriott Center. BYU 3-point home favorites, 147.5 the total in this one. I mean, this has been very that's been rough for Kansas, let's be honest, especially on the road lately. That's 3 straight road losses for them at Baylor, at Kansas State, at Utah. Was a really bad look because Utah hasn't been a great team all year. They lose by 7, although Utah did beat Kansas State last night. So
back-to-back.
Heating up all of a sudden. They're the Utes. Maybe a late season run they've got in them. Well, we'll have to see on the road. I mean, it's one thing at home. The Huntsman Center is a pretty good home court for them over the years, but let's see if they can do it on the road. But nevertheless, give Utah credit for those back-to-back wins against the Kansas schools. But Kansas has to turn it around at some point. Will they here? This is one of those deals where if you're looking at form, I mean, it's pretty easy to lean to BYU. I mean, 7-3 their last 10. back-to-back wins, a big home win against a red-hot, scorching-hot Kansas State team, 80-65. Kind of feels like if you're looking at the form of these two teams, how do you not lay 3 with BYU? But I keep looking at these teams, and I keep thinking to myself, Kansas does have the better talent on paper, but gosh, talent doesn't win games. Playing well with that talent does. And Kansas just not playing well right now. So I think Kansas, this could be the spot for them. And I believe it or not, I'm leaning to Kansas. But boy, it's not easy to make that decision to bet them right now, especially on the road. I lean over as well. CMAC, what do you think here? Kansas, BYU.
Yeah, this is another shitty spot. This Kansas team's just been dog shit on the road. Like when I look at this, I want to take the 3 points with them, but they just haven't. Do I want my money really on them? Like, no. That's in the bottom line. Like, it's just kind of lean their way. BYU, even in the last game, didn't shoot the 3 well, which we talk about. They shoot a ton, but they got up to the free throw line a lot being at home. Can they do that here? And Kansas, just more unders with them. I get this as high. BYU at home, you maybe think over, and it could. And this has come down a little bit right here.
Too, no toughness. Like you get it, -12 in the rebounding for Kansas against Utah as well. Big problem.
Oh yeah, that's awful. Yeah. I mean, they're everything about it just between players hurt, the guys who come in, they just like nothing's worked for them all year long. The different lineups and it's
how about the stock plummeting? You thought the stock was plummeting 2 years ago, and you thought it was plummeting last year. It's now hit rock bottom for Hunter Dickinson. Like, does that guy even?
He's like, anymore? I mean, he's like, I don't know what to say. Like, he's like his 20th year.
Yeah.
And this is what he's regularly. I mean, he can have a big game, but it seems like he's like 12 and 8 is kind of what he's at now, and that makes guys like Mayo and Harris have to do more. I don't know. And the bench I talked about, Storr has been nowhere.
But he turns the ball over. He's reckless with the basketball sometimes. There's just so many
That's been a problem for him. Kansas has been turnover, especially on the road. So this would be a big win for BYU. This probably, just to watch, maybe a live bet. Like I talked about, I kind of lean under, just totals. Like, unless they shoot it well, then I could see it maybe getting kind of a shootout with BYU. But if they don't again, this will go under.
Yeah. Kansas for the year has gone under the total, but there have been a few more overs, at least with them. Late. All right, our final game. This is a late night West Coast game, Minnesota and UCLA. We've got Minnesota, or UCLA rather, 11-point home favorites. The total here at around 130.5 across the board. Minnesota has covered these big numbers at times, but they've also been absolutely crushed and annihilated in some of these spots at times. You're just betting on which Minnesota team are you getting here tonight. What I do know is, look, cashed a ticket with UCLA Friday night, best bet on the show for Friday. They went to Indiana, got the win. Great road win for Mick Cronin after the loss at Illinois. They're coming back to the Pauley Pavilion, the West Coast, Pacific time zone after that game. It's not an easy spot. They're laying a big number. That's going to put UCLA to the test. I mean, they've certainly played well the last month or so, ever since Mick Cronin lost it on his team and gave them that little tirade. But now they're laying a big number. They did show against Penn State. They laid 10.5 in that game. They won by 24. So maybe they can cover this number. I just don't know if I want to lay this number in this spot with UCLA. CMAC, what do you think?
It's just like, is this the spot Minnesota kind of gets their ass kicked? I'm like, I don't know. Garcia didn't have a great game, which was big for them. Patterson, I think, at 24-25 against SC. And I think this correlates a little bit. If they're in it, they cover. This game stays under. Like every game Minnesota has been in, kind of at home, but on the road.
Won ATS their last 5 road games, Minnesota, believe it.
Yes. Yep. So the games before that, they were giving up 80 and only getting to 60, 59, 62. When they've won, whether it's Penn State, all these games, where they got drilled at Michigan State, 73-51. So if they're in it and they cover, this is going under. They have to keep the game in the 60s. Yep. So if UCLA wins, they probably get mid-70s, and maybe this game slips over. But Yeah, I don't know. Minnesota's been playing a bit better. I think they could maybe hang around here
You're
tonight. It's
kind of
just
thinking what
after
I'm
the
thinking.
win,
Yeah. Yeah.
but I can also see UCLA win
They
by
also get to stay in
16 there.
LA. All this from the USC game over the
Yeah,
weekend, and UCLA
over
is
the
the
weekend.
team that's got to do all the travel back to LA. So, yeah.
I know. This is the late game. I didn't want to rush
Yeah.
to bet it. They're like, can I trust Minnesota here again? UCLA starting to play a lot better though, clicking a little bit.
Yeah.
How they were kind of the beginning of the year. They get chewed out, the whole thing like that.
And
So, and I talked about from the beginning, it has to be their defense.
Yeah.
That's how they're going to win basketball games. So I kind of lean under here. Not a lot of wiggle room at 130, but under.
There you have it. There's your game-by-game previews for this Tuesday night. Thanks to everyone for tuning in. Just shout out everyone quickly. Old E, Justin McKelvey, Nick Elvento, certainly Don Play. There we go. Gold Jew. Everyone, Rick J, Derek Miller, Daryl Benton. What do I think of I like the first period over in USA Canada Thursday night. The first period over is cashed in every game in this tournament. How am I not betting that again? Of course I am.
Yeah.
You got to ride it. 6-0. First period overs in the tournament. You got to keep taking it. I know it's a championship game and it's going to get a little tighter defensively maybe, but first period, there's been 2 goals every game in this tournament. So if it ain't broke, don't fix it. I like first period over in that USA Canada game. But there you go. Shout out Derek Miller, Guillermo Zertucci, everyone in the chat. We appreciate you guys joining us. All right, games we have not talked about that we like on the card. C-Mac, we'll start with you. The games we haven't mentioned, what are you liking here for this Tuesday night?
Yeah, there you go, Nick. I mean, Syracuse, I think.
I'm with you there. Syracuse, I'm on Syracuse. Pitt's not in good form right now at all. Pitt won at Syracuse earlier this season. So we had Pitt on the road winning at Syracuse earlier this year. Do you know how good this angle has been, this conference revenge angle, where when you are a home team against a conference opponent and you lose the first game, and then in the rematch, you're getting points on the road in the rematch? The road team, the road underdog's been a really strong long-term winning ATS bet, winning angle in that regard. And that angle says bet Syracuse tonight. Big road dog losing the first game at home against Pitt. Now they're catching big points on the road. That alone is reason to take Syracuse. The other is Pitt's not good enough right now, in my opinion, to lay double digits. So there you go. I'm on Syracuse too.
Yeah, I mean, other than they just won Pitt against Miami, which I had Miami there too. It was a little bit tight. Yeah, this team just the defense hasn't been there. I totally agree. Went through it all. What's interesting, this total's dropped. Central Arkansas game against Queens. I can't believe it's dropped 3 points. Both these teams played a fast pace. Though Central Arkansas can't score. That's the issue.
They play fast and miss half the time, correct?
Yes. So Queens, maybe their team total, it's at 78.5. And their first game of the meeting was insanely low, but these teams both go over like crazy, man. I don't see the move. I think over one. This went down 142.5. I think you look over in that game. What else we have here? Miami, Ohio, Eastern Michigan over. I think you get a lot of points there.
A lot of those MAC games go over. That's a high score.
Well, I'm on. Yep. My best bet is is that here. So that's about it for the rest of the games that we hit on. I think. I'd like to take Davidson. I can't trust him.
Yeah,
man, this team.
I can't
do it. I can't do it. This seems like the spot. They should win here at home. Yeah. This team so I can't do it. I'll leave it at that. I don't need to rip them a new one. It's more than I do here, but I'll let you roll. Then I'll hit the best bet.
Then we'll go to best bet. All right, I'm just going to go rapid fire. You mentioned Eastern Michigan, the over there in that game. I agree with Bowling Green in the over against Kent State. I think Bowling Green's starting to play a little bit better. I think they're worth a look as a home dog there.
Should have covered.
You want an ugly dog? Hold your nose. Here's one I'll throw out there, and it's also in the MAC. Give me those Huskies, Northern Illinois plus 20.
I know
against Akron, man. That is
they are the point. When they've stepped up, they've gotten drilled by 30. But they've played better of late. I agree. You got to take the 20 points there. Nothing.
They've lost 6 in a row, but all margins of defeat were 10 points or less in all of them. Akron's actually 0-2 against the number. Their last 2 is a double-digit home favorite. And the Huskies have just been hanging around, losing by single digits in each of their last 6 games. And there's a flat spot for Akron. I think they got a big game with one of those Ohio's or Kent State, one of those teams this weekend. So, like I said, it's just hang around here. If you're Northern, you're getting 20, just hang in there. And I think they can do that, Northern Illinois. They've been scrappy lately. Central Michigan, Ohio. It's another one of those spots where Central Michigan lost at home to Ohio, and now they're getting points on the road as underdogs in the rematch. So I have to lean to Central Michigan there against Ohio. It's been just such a good angle in that one. Lean over as well. So Ball State, I like plus the points against Toledo. I think that game could be a little closer. Western Michigan revenge spot. They lost a heartbreaker at home against Buffalo. Now they're on the road in revenge, and I think they're favored for a reason. I think they're better than Buffalo, and I think they pay Buffalo back. I think Western Michigan Broncos win that game on the road. What else? I laid it with Iowa State. I think they show up here. They need a convincing type of victory here. I think they could do that against Colorado. And I took Air Force plus the points against Wyoming, small bet. I think Air Force, there's another one. Wyoming won at Air Force earlier this year. Now the rematch, Air Force catching points at Laramie, revenge spot, catching points on the road after losing at home in the previous game earlier this year. That's been such a good angle. So the angle says take Air Force plus the points against Wyoming. So I grabbed a little Air Force there. I like UT Martin in the over against Tennessee State. Look, Nevada's in that angle too. I'm not a Steve Alford fan, and I think Colorado State's better than Nevada. But Nevada is in that spot. Home loss to Colorado State earlier this year. Now the rematch in Fort Collins. Road underdogs. Revenge on the road. These spots have been good, for taking a team like Nevada. But I don't know if I can do it, man. I just don't think. I don't trust them.
It's not a lot.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's just the big home game could cover that. But yeah, I wouldn't be laying with Colorado State either. I think, Nevada stays in that. Or not playing a lot better
the last few games. Now
I know it's been against some bad teams.
They're destroying them, which is a good sign. Earlier in the season they were playing the tomato cans and they were struggling just to win. Now they're starting to pulverize them. So maybe Nevada is turning a corner. We'll see. South Carolina I like too. LSU laying points at home, and they haven't been great at home or laying points. So I got to grab South Carolina there with Lamont Paris and his crew. And plus, they have dominated LSU more often than not. So I took a little South Carolina there. And ugly dog Fresno, plus 19. And again, it's that angle. San Diego State drilled them at Fresno, and now it's the rematch, revenge. Fresno getting all these points on the road at Viejas tonight. Just hopefully they don't get eviscerated, because San Diego State has eviscerated this team many times. But just hoping that after the big win against Boise on the weekend for San Diego State, that maybe here they're a little flat and Fresno stays inside the number.
If they could score, they will. I mean, they couldn't do it against UNLV. I mean, they covered. I had them, but that's been their problem when they played San Diego State. Doesn't say maybe even their team total under for Fresno. And it's down there, but see if they can score on the road.
There you go. That's a bit. That's it. That's all I got. Let's wrap it up. Best bets. CMAC, you already mentioned it, but reiterate it for everyone. Your best bet for tonight.
Yeah, it's the 152.5 is gone, but I think 153 is fine. I was gonna go with the home dog. Talked a little earlier. I like TCU, but Central Michigan, Ohio, I'm on the over. Talked about all those overs. Both these teams don't play any defense. I've been trending over. And Ohio seems like they should get in the mid 80s. Central Michigan with a solid offense, I think they get there too. So over.
There it is. Over for Central Michigan, Ohio. Little Maction over the total. 153 is what we're looking at there for CMAC. All right. My best bet, not easy. There's a lot I like. A lot of good meat on the bone tonight with this card. Lots to choose from. But I'm going to go with the Fighting Illini, man. Who am I to go against a team that has won 9 straight against Wisconsin? They're off the loss. Wisconsin's off the big road win at Purdue. Great buy low spot for Illinois. They've owned this matchup. They're getting 4 points. And I think they got a chance to win outright here, coming off that disappointing loss to Michigan State. So Illinois +4 against Wisconsin. We'll go with that for best bet here for this Tuesday. Shout out to everyone in the chat. Hit the like button on the way out. We're back tomorrow, same time, with another edition of the show. For Connor Mack, I'm Ian Cameron. Have a great Tuesday night. Enjoy the games and good luck. We're back with you tomorrow on Wednesday, 5 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Pacific, for another edition of the College Basketball Hitting the Books show. Until then, class dismissed.
Peace.